This is the DJI Mic 3. This is their latest, most technically advanced wireless microphone system that they've put out to date. Now this system that I got on the budget end of it was $300 Canadian, more than 3 times the cost of this one. Now Neewer is known for making things that punch above their weight class. In other words, giving you a really good bang for your buck. But does that also hold true to their wireless microphone system? Can I put this system up against this system and have a fair comparison? And there is one thing that this one can do that this one can't do. I know that sounds crazy, right? Well, if you'd like to know what that is, keep watching because you're watching Blue Collar Guy. So before we go any further, I did want to say that Neewer did send me out the CM28 Pro wireless microphone system for the purpose of review. But this is not a sponsored video. That means they did not pay for the production of this video. This is not an infomercial where I'm following a script. Also, I insisted that I don't have any paid affiliate links with Neewer. I also don't have any Amazon links, so if you're to buy the DJI system or you're to buy the Neewer system, I don't get a commission. I don't want a commission. The reason why I do these product reviews is because I want you as a viewer to have an honest review and one that is unbiased and neutral. So if I was to get a commission, that's not entirely neutral. Now, I know that you're thinking, well, you still got this microphone system sent to you at no charge, but I do that so that I can review different kinds of products, and I can't afford to run out and buy all these different wireless microphone systems with my own money. I did buy the DJI Mic 3 system because it is their flagship system, and I wanted to compare it with not only this system, but with other systems in the future. So when I bought the DJI Mic 3 system, I bought their basic kit because that is the kit that I would buy as a consumer. I would not get the one with the charging case because at $450 I find that it is very expensive. Now right now you're listening to the DJI Mic Mini. I've got it hooked into the Sony ZV-E10. So I also want to let you know what cameras I'm using. I'm using very realistic, affordable cameras and microphone systems that the average person would go out and buy. The other thing that I'd like to let you know about my channel is I never ask my subscribers for membership fees. In other words, are there any hidden videos that you have to pay me money in order to watch? I also never ask for Patreon. I also never ask you to buy me a coffee with a little QR code. Nothing like that. The only thing that I would like to ask you of is that if you like the video, please hit like. And also, if you could watch the video to the end, that's how I actually make my money from YouTube. I don't think it's a lot to ask. Just hear me out and see what I have to say about the Neewer system and tell me in the comments if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. You can feel free to say whatever you want in the comments. So let's go to the downward shot, and I just want to let you know I've already taken these things out of the box because if you want to watch an unboxing, there's lots of videos on that, but I want to get into the nitty-gritty of kind of what you get for your money and also how these things perform, because that is the most important thing. What do you get audio-wise for $100, and what do you get audio-wise for $300? Because that's what I paid for this kit. So in the DJI system, you get this bag. And in this bag, you will get this. This is a charging cradle. And what it allows you to do is hook this into a USB port. And then you can charge your transmitter. And also, you'll get another connector so that you can charge your receiver. Inside the bag, there's not a whole lot in there. You do get your wind muffs. And you also get a magnet so that you can connect a magnet instead of this clip, because I do want to show you that this clip is attached with a magnet, and some people will like that because you can orientate it in different ways. However, it does allow the microphone to come off. So if you're doing a physical activity, you could end up losing this transmitter, which is kind of expensive. And that might not be a good thing, because I do believe these transmitters are over $150, and that's more money than an entire kit from Neewer. And I'm going to get to this in a minute, but I do want to show you what you get. Now, as you can see, even through the bag, they do have good magnets, and I will give DJI credit for that. But one thing I also want to let you know is don't lose their magnets, because trying to find their magnets, if you lose them, you're looking at least $20 without the logo. So some people might not want the logo, but that's what they cost, and they can get kind of pricey. So we're just going to put this back in the bag, because again, I already took it out of the bag, I already took it out of the box. You know, this is not an unboxing video. This is to show you what you get for your money, and I think that's kind of more important. So you'll get one receiver, one transmitter, a charging cable, and that's it in a nutshell. Now, I will show you the Neewer system now. So I've gotten this one out of the box. Now, in the box, you also get this bag. And in this bag comes all kinds of connections and cables, so that you can connect it to your phone, so you can connect it to your camera. There's lots of connectors and cables, and I'm going to show you a parts list in the corner right now, and then that way you can see what you get in this bag. And you also get wind muffs as well. Now, I did kind of gloss over how this wind muff is. This one comes with two colors. It comes with this color, and it comes with this color. So I do want to make a note of that. And with the Neewer, it comes with just the one color. And how they attach is also kind of important, because if I pull on this one, it's a little different story. We're going to get into that too. But right now, I want to show you what this one includes. So with this one, for about $100, you get the charging case. You get two transmitters. You get a receiver. So you get a lot more for your money. You also get the ability to use wired lavalier microphones, because this one has a wired lavalier microphone input. So that is a deal breaker when you look at this, because if you want to use those, you cannot do that with this very expensive DJI system. You can do that with a Neewer system. Now, the transmitters are a little bit different. This one's a little bit bigger. I'd say it's about twice the size, and I would imagine it's going to have a little bit more weight to it as well. But when you look at the side, this one also has a clip. What's the difference on this clip? Well, I'm just going to show you. And there's the magnet, by the way, and it's a very skinny magnet. It's not as strong as the DJI magnet. However, it does do its job. Now, if you wanted to clip it on there, though, the clip is not going to just pull off like it is on the DJI one, and that might be a deal breaker for some people, which kind of gives the advantage to Neewer. Again, they do punch above their weight class when it comes to these type of things. Neewer is known for that. So if I look at the top, I can clearly see the microphone capsule. And on the DJI system, if I take off the wind muff and I just have to pull this off, I can also see the microphone capsule there. It's kind of hard to see under the lighting. It's a very dark system. And I do want to make a note of how this clips on, because it does clip on and it comes on and off fairly easily. And it is on there, but it is possible that this could pull off in certain situations. And I just did that right now. And now I can't find it. Oh, there it is. So it went flying off, and yes, you don't want to lose these either, because these look like proprietary clips. Now on the wind muff on this guy here, I do want to say how they attach. So if you're familiar with the DJI, their first generation system, well, you're going to understand how this works, because this is a keyed system where you push it into here and then you give it a twist and then it locks into place. This is not coming off. Some people have said, well, it's kind of hard to get them on and off. Well, guess what? I just want to show you, once you figure it out, it does not, it's not that hard to figure out. Like, come on, really? Like, that's not a big deal. And I'm just going to demonstrate 3 times that, you know, you find it, once you're in the slot, It comes off very easily, and I'm not too sure why people were complaining about that, because I'm not having an issue, and I do like the fact that it doesn't come off no matter what. So if you're doing something active, it's not coming off. The magnet, however, is kind of on the thin side, and it is not as strong as the DJI system. I'd say it is roughly about half. I'm just going to be honest, it's about half. So it does have the specifications on the back here too, by the way. And you can put that in there. Now you can't close this with the muffs on there. You can if you had bought the DJI system. They did design it so that you can close the lid with the muffs on, if that's what you're choosing. Now let's go in and compare the features on the receivers. So I'm going to turn on this one, and I'm also going to, and as you can see, these transmitters will still function in the charging case, but this one I need to turn on just so that you can see. This is the display difference. We're going to zoom in a bit because I think that's important. There we go. Okay, so this is what they look like. This has got a touch display, so if I go like this, I can change displays like so. You know, I've got different settings. Also, I want to make a note that this has a headphone output as well. One thing I'd like to point out is with these transmitters, you have to have a charging cradle or the charging case. With this one here, you can use a USB-C. So if you were to forget something like this, you'd be out of luck. But with this one, as long as you have a USB-C charging input like this, you can plug it in and charge it. So that's something to make a note of, is that this isn't going to leave you hanging if you lost your charging cradle. That also might be a deal breaker for some people. I just wanted to point that out. On the receiver side, let's get into the receiver features. So this receiver, and I'm just going to adjust there is a brightness, so I just turned up the brightness. So this has a lot of features. You have your RX settings, you have your transmitter settings, your link, your device management, time code. You can connect to the app, and you can do firmware updates. You can also download the files, which is an advantage over this guy right here. To get the files off of these transmitters, you have to connect them directly to your phone. I use a USB Media Explorer, and I can pull the files off that way as well. So not a huge deal, but this one does make it easier because you can use the app. That also comes in handy for things like firmware updates. So one thing I need to let you know is that you can do firmware updates using the Neewer CM28 Pro, but it does not have a dedicated app. So you need to go and get that firmware update through Neewer, through their website. So you can do firmware updates. They do not use a dedicated app. This one here, it's a little easier to do firmware updates because they have a dedicated DJI Mimo app. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the features of this. So I've just got to get myself into position because I want to get it nice and close to the camera so that you can get a good view of it. I'm going to rest my elbow here. We're going to go through the features of the Neewer system. So I'm going to hold the transmitter over here. So it's a little awkward what I'm doing, but hey, we're going to do this. So now if I click on this button here, and I just want to show you, one marks set, the other one is on off, and this is mute. This controls your recording and your noise cancellation. So if you look, this is microphone number 1. So if I click on this, I've turned off noise cancellation, but I have recording on. If I hold down this button, now I've shut off the internal recording. By the way, it's on a permanent loop, so it loops. Now, if I just click on this, I've got noise cancellation on, and it has changed the display because this is a dot matrix display, so it can change what everything reads. If you look at number 2, I've got it on mute. So if I pick this one up, you'll see that it's blinking red. That means it's on mute. And if I click on this button up here, now I've unmuted it. So now if I click on this button here, okay, I've got 75 hertz low cut, I've got 150, and then on this button over here, this controls your gain. So that's a very small amount of gain. This gain here, this gain up there, that's third. We got fourth. By the way, the fourth one, the tallest one, is good for Sony's ZV-E10. So I'm using, when I hook this up to the Sony ZV-E10, that's the gain I'll be using. And this is your maximum gain, and I found that to be a bit too much for the Sony ZV-E10. So if you want to know what a good setting is for the Sony ZV-E10, it is not that one. You are going to use this one right here. Now, so if I hold this one down, okay, so if I hold this button down, now I've switched to stereo mode. So I've separated the channels from left to right. If I hold this one down again, now I have a safety track. So a safety track records at a lower decibel level. This prevents, so if you have an issue with clipping, so one channel is going to be at this gain level and the other one is going to be at a lower gain level. So if you set this too high and you've got this in safety track, you can still recover your audio. So I just want to make a note of that. So what can this one do when it comes to gain that this one can't do? So on the DJI system, and I'm just going to go through here, so you've got this wheel and you've also got this OLED touch display. So if I go to transmitter, I've also got low cut, and I'm just going to get a little bit closer so that that's in focus. And then I have gain here, and I got one transmitter. Okay, so I can set that gain, and also you can have up to 4 transmitters, but that only applies to certain people. Now I've got automatic gain control on, and it's in automatic. I can also put it in dynamic. So dynamic is better if you're inside, automatic is better if you're outside, so we're going to put it on dynamic. Now, what advantage does that have over this one? Is that, well, you don't have to set your gain control levels. You also have 32-bit float recording. You do not have 32-bit recording in here. These are not 32-bit transmitters. These are 16-bit transmitters. But we're going to see what that sounds like. This is for your file option on your recording, because you can have one with your EQ settings and one without your EQ settings. And you can have low power recording, so if this loses power you can record. That's a nice feature as well. And this has got your audio via button and noise cancellation, and also has vibration. So the one thing also that the DJI system can do, and I'm just going to grab the transmitter, is that they buzz. These buzz when you turn them on. That's that haptic feedback. These do not have haptic feedback. But the DJI Mic Mini system, the one that I'm wearing, also does not have haptic feedback. LED indicators, you can shut them on and off. And this one here, transmitter on and off. Okay, so right now, like I said before, we're using the DJI Mic Mini system. I have hooked it up to a long cable so that if I hold it up, you can see it. Also, if I have it under the downward shot camera, you can see what my settings are. I don't want you to think I'm doing any funny business. I want you to see me actually plug them in so that you can see what it sounds like when you hook it up to a Sony ZV-E10, which is a very popular studio camera for YouTubers, also a vlogging camera. It is extremely popular because it is an APS-C camera and is a very good value for the money. I did a review on it years ago, and believe me, definitely has the features to work with all of these systems. So now we're going to go to the downward shot. And I am going to turn on the Neewer system. So we're going to go from the DJI Mic Mini system, and we're going to go to the Neewer system. But before I do, I need to shut one of these microphones off. I need to mute them because I'm only going to be using one microphone. And I'm going to hook it up on my shirt here. Noise cancellation is going to be set to off. And I'm going to unplug it, this one. So now we are functioning with the Neewer CM28 Pro. What does that sound like? I'm looking at it. Now when I look at my levels, I can see the left and the right channel. And on the safety track, on my, and I'm just going to get my webcam going here to show you what that looks like. Okay, so I want you to look at the right hand level. It is actually a few dBs lower, and that's why I wanted to hook it in through my video switcher so that you can actually see in real time what those levels look like. And then that way, if I'm shouting and I go up here, the one was peaking, however, the other one is not. That is the safety track. So if I'm doing a recording onto the transmitter, I can save my audio that way. Okay, so now we fix that. So that was the webcam that I used. It's made by OBSBot. Okay, so again, I'm not going to be using the cable that came with the DJI, so I just want to be fair and mention that. But here is the Neewer system, and you can, I'm just going to go a little bit closer so that you can see there's the levels, and I'm getting good reception. And if I activate the, and right now also I notice it's on 150 Hertz, so I just want to change that. So I want to make sure that everything is fair. So I've taken off the low cut filter, and that's what that sounds like. Noise cancellation, by the way, is off. So if I hit noise cancellation on now this is noise cancellation on. So this is what it says. It'll say ENC right up here. And if I hit this button, if I hold it down, now I'm doing internal recording and I have noise cancellation on. And if I click this, I'm just recording now. Noise cancellation is off. I have to hold the button down to turn off the recording, which is what I've done now. Noise cancellation is off. But for the sake of this video, I want to record this. So this is noise cancellation off, but I'm recording. And it's a little bit tricky to see because that's kind of a dark red. And now we're in blue, noise cancellation is on, and I'm recording. And that's what that looks like. And I've got the safety track on. So that's what that looks like, and this is what it sounds like. So I'm just going to go back to me. So this is the Neewer CM28 Pro, and this is what it sounds like. So you heard the DJI Mic Mini in the beginning, and that is a very sought after and used microphone system by a lot of content creators. They all use it because they've liked the noise cancellation feature in it, and they also like the portability of it, the smallness of the transmitters. But this is what this one sounds like. And I want to let you know, I don't have the wind muff on, so the wind muff is not on. And here, I'm just going to remove the DJI Mic Mini, just so you know there's no funny business. So that's the DJI Mic Mini, and I'm going to turn it off. And as a matter of fact, I'm just going to put it on its own charging cradle. So now I'm going to do another experiment. Okay, so one thing I'd like to show you is what happens, and I'm just going to plug in, but before I do that, I want to plug in my headphones, because you can do headphone monitoring with this. Okay, so there we go. So in the headphones, you can hear a slight delay, like a little bit of a delay, but it's not distracting. Now, the one thing that I want to do, and this is going to be a big deal, and I know that, some people might say, well, maybe it's not a big deal. I have got over here a charging cable. This is regular charging. So the one thing I noticed on the DJI Mic 2, and I'm just going to go back to me real quick. So the one thing I noticed on the DJI Mic 2 system is if I was charging the receiver while I was trying to use it in my studio, I would get a horrible buzzing noise. And I don't know if it's because of my USB, like my power supply or whatever, but I'm telling you right now, I had to do a lot of recordings over again, or I had to go to the internal recording to save my audio. And that was not cool. They don't state that that's an issue in the manual. So is it possible that this $100 microphone system has a better amplifier than the much more expensive DJI systems. And again, we're going to be going, and we got to do this with the DJI Mic Mini now that I've learned this. So we're going to test this out, but we're going to go quickly because again, I can't hear it in the headphones. So this is what we have to do. So let's go to the downward shot and repeat this experiment very quickly. So right now we're on the DJI Mic 2 system. And this is the fast charger. We know that regular charging doesn't cause the buzz. So if you are using wireless microphones and you want to play it safe, do not put them on a fast charger. You will get that buzzing and you will not hear it through your headphones. It will not translate through your monitor. So there is fast charging. You will hear a buzzing noise. And now the buzzing noise is gone. And now I'm going to hook up the DJI Mic 3 system. Okay, so now you're listening to the DJI Mic 3 system. It is on its best settings, dynamic, auto gain, all that other good stuff. This is their flagship. And now I'm going to be plugging in the fast charger once again. And you're going to hear buzzing noise. But is the buzzing worse than the DJI Mic 2 system? Now I've unplugged the power supply and the buzzing noise is gone. Now also remember, the regular charging does not do that. We learned that. So now let's hook up the DJI Mic Mini. This is the DJI Mic Mini system. The light is now solid. We have a connection. I can see that on my video switcher. Now we're going to hook up the fast charging. We're just going to skip right to the fast charging on this one. This wasn't included in my initial test. And are we getting any buzzing? Did we get any buzzing? I don't know if we did or not. Maybe we didn't get any buzzing at all. If that's the case, the DJI Mic Mini won with its power supply. But I would find that to be unusual given the fact that they're probably using similar components between all three. So now let's hook up the Neewer system again. And I want you to remember what the buzzing sounded on here, if there was any, versus the other two. Now, this is the Neewer system. You can hear me on there. I can see the safety track has been engaged, all that good stuff. Let's hook up the power supply. And we know we're going to get buzzing, but was the buzzing the least? And there's the buzzing. So I'm just going to unplug it. So that's it unplugged. And now we're going to go back to me. So I know that all three will have a buzzing noise. So one thing that I can share with anybody using wireless microphone systems is avoid fast charging. If you need to charge it while you're using it, go to regular charging, because it probably causes a little bit too much interference with the shielding. I'm guessing it's a shielding issue. So I know that some people are looking and they're saying, well, they all buzzed, but the thing is that the one that buzzes the least has the best shielding. It also could have the best signal to noise ratio. It does give you an indication of the quality of the components inside. So that kind of tells me a few things about the Neewer receiver. And don't get me wrong, I'm still going to use the DJI system, but I'm also going to make a mental note that that Neewer system did pretty darn good. You know, it wasn't a huge difference. It does tell me that something is going on there. I wouldn't say that this experiment is purely scientific, and different units off the assembly line may vary. You know, you may have units that do worse, do better, depending on how they come off the line. So this is my particular units that I have here, but this is what I found, and I thought it was kind of interesting. So now you can hear the fan in the background, and this is what it sounds like with the noise cancellation off. And now both lights are blue. That's noise cancellation on. Can you hear the fan? There's a lot of ambient background noises here. One thing I want to point out is this is not AI noise cancellation. This is electronic noise cancellation, and there is a difference between the two. But as far as electronic noise cancellation goes, I think it does pretty good. Now, this system is a 16-bit system, and I want to point that out as well. What does that mean? It means that if I was to describe the audio in resolution terms, this would be the equivalent to high-definition television. A 24-bit system would be the equivalent to 4K, and a 32-bit system would be the equivalent to 8K. But keep in mind, those components, I think, did pretty good, didn't they? So even though it's a 16-bit system, if it's got really good signal-to-noise ratio, then I think it's really punching above its weight class as far as quality goes. I find the display pretty easy to read. The only thing that I was having some trouble with was when it goes into record mode and it's in the red. So any type of red display is a little tougher to see, but I can tell that the other microphone is on mute, that sort of thing. And I also want to say once again, I would recommend that when you have it, you put the gain there on the, not on the very top one, but on the very bottom one. So I'm going to turn it up just to show you what I mean by that. And I'm just going to turn it up a little bit more. There we go. So this is gain at maximum, and it is too much, I think, for the Sony ZV-E10, because you can get a little bit of distortion. This is the gain on the very lowest level. This is on the second level. This is on the third level. And this is on the level that I recommend. This is 75 Hertz low cut. So if I take the noise cancellation off, and I have it on 75 Hertz, so if you don't like noise cancellation, but you want to try to control things like rumbling noises, like low frequencies, this would be your next alternative. At least it has that option. So for a basic microphone system, it does have all of the necessary features that much higher end microphone systems have. So what would I like to see on Neewer's next generation of CM28, like on their CM29 Pro perhaps? Well, I think that they could actually put micro SD cards inside the transmitters. Not only should they have internal recording at 4 gigabytes, but by adding an internal SD card, like a removable micro SD card, would give me the option of just pulling that card out and pulling the files directly off the card, and I could also swap cards. And having 4 gigabytes of internal storage in case I forgot my card, that would be a bonus. And I think that they could probably do that without adding a lot of cost to it. And the other thing that they could probably do is switch to a 24-bit system, which would up the audio resolution. Now, I also think that their transmitters do have another advantage over the DJI system in that they're more glove friendly. So if I was wearing gloves and I was in a cold climate, I could remove and put the transmitters back on. Now, on their transmitters, they could also improve this by, instead of having 2 buttons here, I think they should add a third button, a dedicated record button, and then that way you don't have to hold down the other button. I think a dedicated record button would be a bonus. And I also think that having the record button maybe on the front would also be better. Like for me, having it so it's on the front and I can see what's going on. I also think that it wouldn't hurt them to improve the magnets. The magnet on here is pretty thin. It does do the job. I might be getting nitpicky here, but the DJI Mic 2 system had the strongest magnets out of all the DJIs, and I also wanted to state that too, that out of all the DJIs, the DJI Mic 2 had the strongest magnets. They're actually very difficult to remove. But the DJI Mic 3 system, you would think it would have the strongest magnets because it's using this clip here, but I find that the DJI Mic 2 magnets were stronger than that magnet. Don't know why, but I'm just putting it out there in case you were looking at that system as well. Would I recommend the Neewer CM28 Pro as a wireless microphone system? And the answer is most definitely yes. Having a system that is less than $100 with internal recording, and I have tested other systems similar to this, but they do not have internal recording, and they're about the same price. So that is a very good value for your money, and that pretty much goes with the way Neewer does things. They always add that other thing that says, you know what, even if ours is the same price as this guy's, we're offering you a key feature that they don't have. So again, bang for your buck, Neewer wins on that one. So once again, I'd like to remind you, you're listening to the Neewer CM28 Pro. I've got the noise cancellation off. I'm going to activate it again because I do have that fan in the background. And I can tell easily by looking at the indicator lights, it is blue. I am still doing the internal recording, and this is what that sounds like. I think it is a very good value for the money. Now, I'd like to thank Neewer for sending out the CM28 Pro. I did extensive testing on the CM28 Pro to see, how easy it was to find the files, things like that, and everything seemed to be fairly straightforward, almost what I would refer to as, plug and play. I was happy to learn that you can do the firmware updates through their website, because they do have firmware updates you can do to the microphone system, but they do not have a dedicated app. Now, for me, I've got so many apps on my phone as it is. If they had an app, I was going to be like, oh my God, not another microphone app that I got to put on my phone. So sometimes you don't want that. And you just want things that are simple, and you may never even use the app. The app for the DJI Mic Mini happens to be the same for their Mic 2 and the DJI Mic 3. So it depends which one you're plugging in. So one last thing that I would like to make a note of is that the DJI Mic 3 system cannot take external lavalier microphones. So one thing I would like to point out also that is a strike against the Neewer system is that the DJI cameras and their action cameras, and I also have their Osmo 360, you cannot connect those via Osmo audio unless you have the DJI microphones. So the DJI Mic 3, the DJI Mic 2, the DJI Mic Mini all connect to their Pocket 3 and to their action cameras via Osmo audio. You can also connect them directly to a cell phone, but that Bluetooth connection is not that good. It's actually quite horrible, and most YouTubers say, do not do that. You're better to connect the receiver directly to your phone. But that is the only really big difference, and it's only if you have DJI cameras, because a lot of people that are doing YouTube are actually using the camera that I'm looking into, which is the Sony ZV-E10. And even though I have used the Osmo Pocket 3 in the studio many times, I often will use different microphone systems through the Sony ZV-E10, because when I'm hooking it through a video switcher, that is how I like to connect my microphone systems. So I would like to thank Neewer for sending out the CM28 Pro. It is a very good microphone system, and yes, I would totally recommend it. I think it sounds really good. I have no issues with it. I think the amplifier really impressed me with this torture test of putting the different chargers on there while we're using it. Now, I know some people will say that, well, I never charge it while I use it. Well, that might be you, but that's not everybody. And if you've ever used these wireless microphone systems, you can quite easily forget to charge them, and you may find yourself in a position where you have to do a recording because you're on a timetable and you're like, well, what do I do now? And then you've got to take a break for like an hour or so you can charge up your receiver in order to use it. So it is important to know that you can charge them while you're using them, and that we also found out that regular charging and not fast charging is the best way to go. So that's it for this video. So don't forget to hit like if you like the video. Don't forget to leave a comment. I would like to know your thoughts. Have you ever found yourself in a position where you've had to charge your receiver while you're using it? Have you ever had the issue with the buzzing and not realizing it was fast charging versus regular charging? So take care, be safe at work, and I will see you at the next video. Bye.